Donald Trump had invested very heavily in a show of force in Georgia's 2022 Republican primary elections. He endorsed 13 candidates, but some of them handpicked. But he was especially determined to take down the two incumbents who together certified Joe Biden's 2020 rightful win in the presidency in the Peach State, Governor Brian Kemp and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Kemp empathetically beat Trump's candidate, former Senator David Perdue, winning nearly three-fourths of that vote, and which is well above his performance in any poll. And he carried all 159 counties in that state. Now, more surprisingly, Brad Raffensperger, who defied Trump's direct orders to find him additional votes in December 2020 and has mocked his election fables, defeated Jody Hice, whom Trump convinced to give up a safe congressional seat to purge the incumbent. Hice was apparently saving his money for a runoff that nearly everyone expected, but Raffensperger won a spare majority and thus the nomination, after being left for dead by most observers at the beginning of the race. The enmity between Trump and Kemp goes back a long way, and this is well before the governor's refusal to help overturn the 2020 election. Kemp was cruising toward a runoff win in 2018 as a self-proclaimed politically incorrect conservative, and Trump gave him a last-minute endorsement, and subsequently took total credit for Kemp's career, which Trump had nothing to do with. When Kemp spurned his recommendation to fill an open Senate seat and then got cross-wire with Trump on COVID policy, Trump decided that Kemp was ungrateful, and certifying Biden's win was the final straw for Trump. So Trump decided on revenge and talked Perdue into becoming its instrument. And Kemp had a better idea. His smashing victory on Tuesday was a testament to his success in making himself a Trumpy candidate in every other way than bending over and being on his knees into Trump's stolen election claims. He used his gubernatorial powers ruthlessly and effectively to head off any room to his right, cutting taxes and suspending gasoline taxes, and championing voter suppression and extreme abortion laws, and reminding Republican voters that he had been just as ruthless in turning back a tough 2018 challenge from Stacey Abrams, whom he will face again in November. He also secured timely financial help and some personal campaigning from his fellow Republican governors, and also down the home stretch from another Trumpism without Trump, also which means Mike Pence. Meanwhile, Perdue steadily lost ground after beginning the contest dead, even with Kemp lagging and fundraising and never succeeding in outflanking the incumbent ideology. His campaign reached a dismal end with Perdue talking racist smack about Abrams. He has already endorsed Trump's bitter enemy Kemp against a charismatic Democrat who was unopposed for her party's nomination. Now, Brad Raffensperger, surprise comeback was the product of three factors. First, he was able to self-fund an aggressive campaign that emphasized his hostility into voting rights champions like Abrams and his support for the state's new restricting voting and election laws. And second, Raffensperger's defiance of Trump led an undefined but probably significant number of Democrats to cross over and vote for him. And third, Heist didn't spend the money to let Trump fans know he was the maggot candidate, and aside from voters in his congressional district, he had no real fan base. Trump's losing streak continued with his candidates for Attorney General and Insurance Commissioner, and both of them lost badly. The bright spots for him are Senate candidates Herschel Walker, who, like Trump, is winning handily over a large but feeble field. Amazingly, Walker ran 5 points behind Kemp and State Legislator Butch Jones, who was running first in the primary for lieutenant governor and he could avoid a runoff. Now down the ballot, Trump's celebrity party switcher Vernon Jones is currently running second in the primary for Heist's open seat, and will likely face heavily favored Mike Collins in a runoff. And though nobody really thought that the ultra-maggot Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene was in any trouble against underfunded primary opponents, but Trump will probably claim her easy win as a feather in his cap in what is turning out to be a nightmarish even for everyone, and even for him. The Kemp-Abrams general election tilt, along with Walker's effort to knock off the incumbent Senator Raphael Warnock, could be landmark races in November, but if any Republicans stay united, they could have an advantage in both races thanks to the midterm dynamics that are helping the GOP from coast to coast. But Abrams and Warnock are savvy campaigners, and both have raised what they call a ton of money while watching the Trump-inspired Republican squabble. And even if Georgia Republican leaders unite behind their ticket, there's no guarantee that their ex-squad-role leader will lift a finger to help Kemp and Ravensbrücker, who will have his own tough general election fight. Now, most knowledgeable observers blame Trump for the twin Senate losses in Georgia on January 5th of 2021, with some loyal maggot voters sitting on their hands rather than participating further in an election that Trump called rigged, even though the election wasn't rigged. Now that Georgia has humiliated Trump even further, and his champions again, he may once again be unable to look beyond his own towering ego and help the party he professes to lead. Now, Trump has already stumbled in his effort to make Republican midterm primaries proof positive of his domination for the GOP. With the defeat of his gubernatorial candidates in Nebraska and Idaho, his struggle to pick a Senate candidate in Pennsylvania, and his withdrawn endorsement of Alabama Senate candidate Mo Brooks after this primary setback in Georgia, he'd better get his mojo back soon or his party leadership will be seriously in question. And so basically, it was a tough night for Trump. Basically, a lot of the candidates he was endorsing were losing, which is good for us, because even though I don't live in Georgia, but it's always good when Trump loses, even the candidates that he endorses. So if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just as little as a couple bucks a month, you can donate to the channel, and it can help go a long way. And thanks for listening.